Giant dragonflies the size of pigeons and scorpions that could take down amphibians. The Carboniferous was basically Earth's bug punk horror era. Let's dive right in.
Insects are the most numerous animals on the planet. Over 1 million species have been described, and there are likely millions more we've never encountered. Relative to humans, modern insects are small and vulnerable, hiding in dark corners and skittering out of sight. But there was a time on our planet when insects were large and dangerous creatures that dominated their ecosystems, and in many ways, ruled the prehistoric world.
That's freaking scary. The phrase "insects once ruled the world" is nightmare fuel. Imagine a dragonfly the size of a seagull buzzing past your face. Yeah, that was real during the Carboniferous period. It's like nature cranked insect settings to kaiju mode, and while today they hide under your sink, back then they were basically the landlords of Earth.
The age of giant insects began during the Carboniferous period, roughly 359 million years ago. Long before the dawn of the dinosaurs, the Carboniferous was a time of tremendous change on our planet. Significant geological events were transforming the surface. Climate changes catalyzed the formation of lush terrestrial ecosystems, where critical innovations among animals and plants set the stage for millions of years of unprecedented diversity. During the lower Carboniferous, sometimes called the Mississippian, the world's climate was relatively tropical and uniform. It was significantly influenced by the movement of Earth's major landmasses, which were forming a supercontinent called Pangaea. Large pieces of Pangaea were steadily drifting together, closing waterways and creating a super ocean that covered most of the planet. As land masses collided, low areas were flooded with warm, brackish waters, forming floodplains and swamplands. These plentiful environments were home to numerous plants and animals, like bryozoans, ancient fish, and many species of amphibians. About 340 million years ago, a period of significant continental uplift began to shape our planet's topography and ecology. Around this time, the supercontinent Gondwana collided with landmasses in the northern hemisphere, striking with enough force to create brand new mountain ranges like the Appalachians. This period of continental uplift also expanded the world's floodplains and swamps.
I've definitely said this before, but the animation style really is beautiful. It gives these massive prehistoric changes this dreamy, almost storybook quality. Like, instead of just hearing about continents smashing and swamps spreading, you feel it as part of this big living world. It's dramatic science, but dressed up like art. It kind of makes you forget you're basically watching the setup for giant nightmare insects.
When new species of plants were sprouting in troves, large seed ferns and towering trees formed massive tropical forests, which engulfed many regions around the equator. The relatives of many modern plants, like conifers, first appeared in these vast prehistoric woods. Alongside diverse flora, the world's swamps and forests supported a complex system of semi-aquatic and terrestrial animals. Many ancient amphibians lived near the water's edge, while early amniotes thrived in drier, terrestrial areas. These important creatures resembled present-day lizards with long snouts and sprawling limbs. They also laid hard-shelled eggs, which allowed them to safely reproduce in terrestrial ecosystems. The first amniotes would eventually diverge into synapsids and sauropsids, the relatives of mammals and reptiles, respectively. However, during the Carboniferous, the most dominant terrestrial predators were neither amniotes nor amphibians, but some of the largest insects ever discovered. About 323 million years ago, an unprecedented period of gigantism generated insects more than 10 times larger than their modern counterparts. Many species were unrivaled in their respective ecosystems. One of the best-known apex predators was a giant winged insect called Meganeura that resembled modern-day dragonflies.
The reveal that the apex predators weren't dinosaurs or lizards but giant insects is so unsettling it's almost funny. Like, imagine your top food chain nightmare is basically a dragonfly with a 6-foot wingspan named Meganeura. These things were aerial tanks, sharp jaws, giant wings, no chill. It's wild that lizards laying eggs on land would eventually evolve into mammals and reptiles, but in that moment, bugs were running the block. Earth's OG boss fight was literally a supersized mosquito lookalike.
Meganeura had a wingspan of up to 70 centimeters, about the size of a pigeon today. For much of the Carboniferous period, winged insects like Meganeura were the only animals capable of flight, so the largest species ruled the skies. Around forests and swamps, Meganeura would swoop down with its beating wings and use its sharp mandibles to pierce the bodies of its prey. Meganeura was most likely an airborne terror during the Upper Carboniferous, but even larger animals were crawling along the forest floor. Arthropleura was a prehistoric myriapod that grew over 2 meters long, similar to modern millipedes.
So first we've got Meganeura, basically a pigeon-sized dragonfly that ruled the skies like some buzzing fighter jet. And then boom, Arthropleura shows up, a 2-meter-long millipede tank crawling through the forest. That's not nature, that's a horror movie casting call. Picture hiking in those swamps. You'd get dive-bombed from above and steamrolled from below. Honestly, the Carboniferous was less tropical paradise and more prehistoric bug-punk dystopia.
Arthropleura had a segmented body covered with armored plates and many legs. Though it wasn't technically an insect, this giant animal remains one of the largest terrestrial arthropods to ever live. When it was first discovered, paleontologists believed Arthropleura used sharp mandibles for cutting and stabbing prey. But more recent specimens suggest this giant creature, despite its terrifying appearance, was actually a herbivore. Arthropleura likely scuttled through woody environments, living alongside early amniotes and feeding on mostly plant matter. Arthropleura may have not been a dangerous carnivore, but it likely shared its ecosystem with another horrifying arthropod. Known as the lung scorpion, Pulmonoscorpius was a giant relative of modern-day scorpions that grew up to 70 centimeters long. Dwarfing even the largest species today, Pulmonoscorpius had big eyes, an armored body, and a sharp stinger on the end of its tail. In woodsy biomes and swamps, Pulmonoscorpius was likely a dangerous predator that preyed upon everything from amphibians and amniotes to other arthropods.
Funny how the tables have turned. Now it's the other way around. But Arthropleura looked like the ultimate armored boss monster, but turns out it was basically a gigantic salad bar on legs. Meanwhile, its creepy roommate, the lung scorpion, was the real menace, roaming around like an 8-legged assassin with a built-in spear. Today, scorpions hide under rocks and millipedes get flicked off sidewalks. Back then, they were the neighborhood HOA, and missing dues meant getting stung or steamrolled.
Paleontologists have discovered many fossils of large arthropods, but some debate remains over why these animals became giants in the first place. Similar levels of insect gigantism have not occurred since the Upper Carboniferous. So what was special about this period? Many evolutionary factors, like reproductive success or decreased competition, can influence an animal's body size. For example, a deficit of flying predators during the Carboniferous period may have allowed more insects to survive in the open, leading to a general increase in both size and diversity. A lack of competition may have contributed to the success of many insect populations, but paleontologists believe something else caused insects to grow to record-breaking sizes. During the late Carboniferous, oxygen was extremely plentiful in the atmosphere, far exceeding oxygen levels today. This period of hyperoxia, or oxygen abundance, may have influenced the growth of terrestrial arthropods. Giant insects like Meganeura likely had high metabolic rates and would have benefited from an oxygen-rich environment. Hyperoxia may be our best explanation for this unusual period of gigantism, but this theory remains controversial. Though large and terrifying, giant insects represented only a tiny slice of insect diversity throughout the Carboniferous period. Tropical swamps and forests were crawling with all kinds of insects, from wingless hexapods to fast and mobile flyers. The first Orthoptera, ancestor of grasshoppers, crickets, and locusts, may have hopped along the forest floor or flown between branches with parallel wings. Others, like mayflies and griffinflies, leverage their mobility to escape predators, locate resources, and travel between environments. Some flying insects evolved winglets in front of their primary wings to give them even more mobility in the air.
So the big twist isn't just bugs got huge, it's that Earth basically juiced them up with oxygen steroids. Hyperoxia turned dragonflies into pigeons and scorpions into lapdogs you'd need a forklift for. But it's hilarious. Their dominance was kind of a cosmic fluke. Once oxygen dropped and predators evolved, the bug gym closed for good. Now Orthoptera are crickets chirping in your backyard instead of 6-inch locusts dive bombing you like fighter pilots. Nature went from kaiju mode back to annoying summer soundtrack.
Later, more advanced insects adapted folding wings, which they could tuck away as they flew from tree to tree. Though not giant monsters, many of these species, like early cockroaches, were massive compared to their modern counterparts. Of course, insects weren't the only creepy crawlies diversifying during the Carboniferous. In the same lush ecosystems, many other kinds of arthropods carved out unique niches and became vital to the development of our global ecosystem. For example, the first true spiders emerged during the Carboniferous period, though spider-like arachnids did appear much earlier. Like spiders today, the first spiders had 8 legs and book lungs and produced silk using spinnerets on their abdomens. Paleontologists believe the first spiders were abundant in coal forests and may have built burrows on the forest floor. To hunt, these predators may have hidden behind trapdoors, waiting for unsuspecting prey to walk or fly too close. Not until the early Cretaceous period did spiders begin hanging from trees or building intricate webs like modern weavers. As far as we know, the first true spiders were relatively small, but in 1980, an Argentinian paleontologist discovered a gigantic arachnid with a leg span of approximately 50 centimeters. This specimen would have been the largest spider ever discovered, but it wasn't a spider at all. Instead, it belonged to a group of extinct arthropods called Eurypterids, also known as sea scorpions. Eurypterids were terrifying marine predators that grew up to 2.6 meters long, surpassing Arthropleura as the largest known arthropods.
So just when you think giant cockroaches and trapdoor spiders are bad enough, science casually drops Eurypterids on the table. Sea scorpions up to 2.6 meters long. That's not an arthropod, that's a nightmare submarine with claws. Wild part? For a hot second, paleontologists thought one of these monsters was the world's biggest spider. Imagine the relief. Oh, phew, it's not a 50-centimeter spider, it's just a 9-foot armored ocean assassin. Yeah, much better.
These creatures were most populous during the Silurian and Devonian periods. By the Upper Carboniferous, the largest species were already extinct. Still, many of these terrifying predators lived around river deltas, snatching fish and small arthropods in their powerful claws. Diversity among insects and other arthropods continued beyond the Carboniferous, though they faced a host of new evolutionary threats. Entering the Permian period, the early relatives of mammals and reptiles became larger and more competitive. Some, like gliding lizards, preyed on vulnerable insects crawling up trees or skittering across the forest floor. Though they faced greater competition, smaller insects flourished in many terrestrial habitats. Lice, thrips, true bugs, and even the first insects capable of metamorphosis carved out new ecological niches. Some emerging species would be wiped out by a mass extinction event at the end of the era, but insects would remain the most populous creatures on the planet. In many ways, the Carboniferous period was an age of incredible change and diversity on Earth. The gradual assembly of Pangaea reshaped the surface of our planet and spawned incredible ecosystems where new flora and fauna thrived for millions of years. On our changing planet, evolutionary lineages emerged that would bring into being the millions of species we know today. But the Carboniferous period may be best known as that rare moment in evolutionary history when giant terrestrial insects ruled the world.
It's kind of poetic that the Carboniferous was both a lush cradle of new life and a straight-up horror anthology of giant bugs. Insects ballooned to ridiculous sizes, amphibians crept out of swamps, and continents slammed together to script Earth's next chapters. For a fleeting geological heartbeat, the skies, trees, and forest floors weren't ruled by dinosaurs or mammals, but by insects that looked like they belonged in a heavy metal album cover. A true reminder that evolution isn't just survival of the fittest, it's survival of the strangest. Koranos did an amazing job with this video. Link is in the description. And next time, let's just say we're diving into something completely different but equally bizarre. Stay nerdy.